Well, hello there. So I'm doing a hat in my chain ridge stitch. And I haven't got to the stitch yet, but I've done the cast on and then I've done an owl eye brim. And I've done a different cast on than I usually use for the owl eye brim. And it gives you a nicer look just inside. I'll see if there's somewhere I can show you where it shows up. Well, it's showing up a bit here. It's just a really nice pattern when you start, okay? So I'm going to take you to the video on how to do that. And so you'll be casting on and you'll do the first few rows of cast on and then just uh, in the cast on it'll show you how to do owl eye stitch if you don't know, but I have lots of videos. And then you'll just keep going in the owl eye until you get the length of brim that you need. Okay, so after I'll take you to the cast on and then you'll do your owl eye and then we'll start in on the stitch. So I will see you in a bit. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I cast on and do my first couple rows to get that effect at the front of the brim. Okay, so you can use any yarn and loom. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that they match for the how tight or how loose you want the stitch. So the first thing I do is I'm just going to make a slip knot and put it on the first peg. The yarn I'm using is a bulky yarn and I'm on a 5/8 inch loom. It has 44 pegs, which is small, it's a U size or a very small woman's head. Anyway, so I do the slip knot. Then I'm going to take the loom hook, okay, and put it in the top of it. I'm going to pull up the working yarn. So this is just the crochet chain stitch without a loom hook. Okay. Oh, and yeah, this yarn that I spun, it's 100% merino wool, just in case you were wondering. Okay, and then I tighten it and I put the loop behind and I tighten it. And I put the loop behind and I tighten it. Loop behind and I tighten it. Loop behind and I tighten it. And you're just going to do that all the way around the loom. Okay, just like this, all the way around. I have a stitch marker here, but it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll just take it off. It's for something else that I did. Okay. And we just keep going around. So I'm just going to put you on pause while I go most of the other way around, and we'll meet you up in a bit. Okay, I'm getting close to the end of the row now. And I'm just going to pop this peg on here, or this yarn on here, and knit it over. And we are cast on, and we've already done the first stitch there, so I'm not going to do any more because it's going to be heavy enough. Okay, so to get started, we do a row of owl eye. So to do owl eye, we go over the first peg, knit it off, come over peg 1 and 2, knit them off. Whatever peg you're on is peg 1, go over 1 and 2 nice and loose and just knit it off. Go over 1 and 2, knit it off. Always on the first peg that you start on, it's always peg 1, go over 1 and 2 nice and loose and knit them off. That's all there is to it. And we're just going to go all the way around the loom. Okay, so we will just catch up when we're close to the end of the row. Okay, so I'm getting close to the end of the row here. And then I'm just going to come over here like this and end my row right there. I'll do one more stitch over. And the reason I did that is because this had less stitches on it. Then we're going to do a row of purl. Okay, so you put the loom hook in here, pull up the working yarn and just slip it over the top. Put the loom hook here, scoop up the yarn and just flip it over the top like that. Okay, pull it up and forward, over, and just tighten slightly. And we're just going to go all the way around the loom doing the purl stitch. And then the cast on will be complete and you will have that look on the front. Okay, so I will meet you up when we get close to the end of the row. Okay, so I finished the row of purl. Now we do one more row of owl eye. And so again, this is how I do it. And then I'll just meet you up at the end and we will have we'll have the look. Okay, so I will see you when we get back around. Okay, so I'm done that, and it's hard to see, but this is the look that you're going to have on your brim. This beautiful chain look. So at this point, if you're doing brimless, you just go right into the stitch you're using, or if you want to have an owl eye brim, you just start doing some rows of owl eye. Okay, so I showed you this part here, and then we'll go on and do the project. Okay, so you've got your cast on and then you've gone around the loom in owl eye until you got the length of brim that you want. And the loom that I'm on is a Alamelt loom. It's got 20 pegs. It works for me for a hat size, but I have a very small head, so it won't work for most people. But you can do this on any loom that you want. It can be even or odd for the stitches. And use any yarn that'll fit it. And this yarn that I'm using is a bulky yarn I spun myself. Okay, so you can use any bulky yarn. Okay, so I had started on the first stitch, so I'm just going to show you how to do the first stitch. You just start in the first peg and start doing it after you finish the owl eye, and you come around and you knit over the bottom 2 pegs. So you put the yarn over in a U-wrap, come back around again, and then knit the 2 bottom over the top. Now this should be nice and loose because you're holding the tension. It's just the working yarn. So if you're finding it too tight, just loosen up your grip. Okay, so we're just going to go around doing the juniper stitch. Two bottom ones over the top. My yarn. Pull it over a little bit here. Yeah, so I have some room. So I wanted to get a very tight weave, so quite a bulky yarn here for the size of loom. Okay, so you're just going to do the juniper all the way around the loom. And since I'd already started that row, we're going to end pretty soon here on the end peg, and I'm going to show you the next stitch. So just keep going around doing the juniper stitch, and again it's just over and around, knit it over and around, knit it over, and that's all there is to it. And then we do that on the last peg, And then on the first peg, we're ready for the next stitch. And the next stitch is a double purl. And the double purl is going to always be heading this way to the right. So you're going to knit over. If you're knitting to the left, it's going to be heading that direction. And purl. And then you're just going to take the working yarn and purl it again. Oop. Got caught on a peg there. Okay. And there again, keep your working yarn to the right. Come over, put it on the peg, and tighten. Okay. So you're just going to do a purl, come over. Whoops, don't come over, stay here. Scoop it up. Awkward for me to keep it in the camera. And you're going to keep this on this side, take it over, and tighten. Okay? So that's all there is to it. Purl, purl again, and just slip it over. Okay, and we're going to keep doing that, and we'll catch up as we get a little bit further along. So I'm a little bit further along, and so we just keep doing the same thing, and we purl it again, and purl it, and purl it again. And that's all there is to doing this. Just continually going the same way. So I'll meet you up on the first peg again. Okay, so I've just done the one on the last peg. So now we go back to row 1 and we just do juniper stitch again. So the 2, we wrap over the first peg, 2 stitches, and take the 2 bottom ones over. So just like this. Okay, and then we just keep going all the way around the loom, and then we go back and do the double purl stitch again. So that's all there is to doing the stitch, and we just keep doing it until we get long enough. And I'm just going to do a couple more stitches here because I want to take a look at it at the pattern, and now that we've got that much, we should be able to see something. That fluff out of there. Okay, and there is the pattern starting. I don't know how well you can see it in this light because it's got the dark. So when we get further along and we're ready to bind off, we'll take a good look at it. But it's a really beautiful stitch with a lot of texture. Okay, and I have a stitch video out on it, so you can have a look at that. So have fun repeating the 2 rows, and we will see you when we get close to the bind off and have a good look at what this looks like. Well, okay, I've managed to get as far down as I need to get to start binding off, and it's looking really nice. See all the, turn to the side, you can see all the ridges and how nice they look. You can see them a lot better against the lighter color here. So then you just need to do 1 row of E-wrap, or you can do more if you want. I often do a couple. And then I'm going to take you now to how to bind off. The bind off I'm going to use because I already have a video of that. And then we'll come back and look at the finished hat. So we will see you in a bit. And now we can go ahead and bind it off. And I'm just going to do a slightly decreased bind off so I don't get a lot of bulk. And it's pretty easy to do. So all we're going to do first is do a row of E-wrap. And it doesn't matter which stitch you ended with, whether you ended with the Jupiter stitch or the U-wrap, it'll work fine either way. So we're just going to E-wrap nice and loose all the way around the loom. And the reason you want to keep it loose is you're going to have to move some stitches, and you want to them to be fairly loose to move. I just kind of gently push it to make sure I'm keeping it nice and loose. Okay, and then you're just going to knit the last one to secure it. Knit it over, and then you're just going to go around the loom and knit off the E-wrap. Okay, so I'll just put you on pause and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to go by twos all the way around the loom, and every second peg is going to go on the first peg, the yarn. So you're going to take it off and you're just going to move it over to the peg before it. So just taking it off and moving it to the peg before it. And you're just going to go all the way around the loom. So you'll have 2 loops on peg 1, nothing, 2 loops on peg 2, nothing, or two loops over here. And you're just going to keep doing that so that every second peg will be blank and every second peg will have the 2 loops on it. Okay? So if you are on a uneven loom, you won't have an even amount of pegs, so you just don't bother doing the last one. Doesn't really matter. And because I kept this nice and loose, it's quite easy for me to move these over. Just awkward because the angle I have it, but okay, so I'm going to put you on pause, and as you see how this is looking, and we're just going to meet up when we have that done. Okay, now that you have that all done, all you're going to do is go around the loom and knit the bottom one over the top, like that. And that reduces the bulk so that your cast off and the back of your hat will lay a lot flatter. And more, and then the one more, and there we are, and there's the working yarn coming out of this one. And then all we're going to do is, with the working yarn, go around the loom 1.5 times and just cut your yarn. Now you can either use your loom hook or a needle, and we're just going to go up and scoop up the loops so we can do a drawstring bind off. And I usually use a needle, but if you were going to use your loom hook, which is easy to do with this method, you just take the yarn and pull it through like that. And if you have a needle, you just put the needle on and you're going to pick it up the same way. I usually use a needle. This is so much easier though when you're doing it sometimes. On a bigger loom, I'd for sure want a needle. Okay, so I'm just going to put you on pause and we'll pick it all up and I'll see you at the beginning. Okay, now when we get all the way around, we make sure we pick up the very first stitch that we had already picked up. You want to make sure that every peg is on here. Now all you have to do is take all the pegs off the loom. You just go around and you just flip them off. I'm just holding on to the drawstring here because I want to make sure that it doesn't come off. And we just take them all off. And you can even do it with your fingers. And there we go. All off the loom. We can just put the loom to the side. We don't need it anymore. And then you're going to take the working yarn and you're just going to drawstring the brim closed. Okay, you're just going to make sure that it's all like that. And then when you get it about halfway, you're just going to take the working yarn and put it through the hat and flip it this way because we're going to finish it on the wrong side. And we just bind it up. And as you see here, it's going to be not as bulky as it would have been. We've thinned that out. Okay, and now this is when we do need a needle. So I'm just going to get a needle. I have a needle in this handy dandy little thing. And also you can cut the working yarn a lot shorter. You just need to sew that close. So I'm going to cut it to about there and put the needle through the yarn, or the yarn through the needle. Okay, there we go. So that's threaded, and we're just going to sew this closed. So what I do is, now that I've bound it up, is I kind of pinch it so I can see where that edge was, and then I make sure it's pulled nice and tight. There's the hole in the middle, so I just want to pinch it so I'm at that hole in the middle. And then I just take the needle and I just sort of sew around in a circle around that hole, just picking up some loops. Okay, and then I'm going to actually do a knot. My loom wants, or my yarn wants to be all weird. Go, and I'm going to do another knot. Just want to make sure that this doesn't come apart. I'm just going to go the other side. And make another knot. And then you can sew the working yarn in if you'd like. I just actually, because it's not going to be reversible, I just cut it and leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. Doesn't bother me. And the other side of your hat looks like this. It's a lot thinner, but we'll take it and we'll stretch our stitches, because that's what you always do when you make a hat, is you stretch your stitches. You pull it every way and make sure it's all stretched out. And then there's your hat. It's looking really nice. The top is flattened a lot better, your beanie hat, than it would have been. And there you go. You have a beautiful beanie hat. And here's the finished hat. And with a nice flat top. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, bye.